let's propagate my hydro peace lily. Hello, I'm Jacinta. Welcome back to my channel, Past That Plant. Today we are going to propagate the Spathiphyllum, the peace lily. I currently have two peace lilies in my collection. I have the Spathiphyllum Domino, which is the variegated peace lily. Very cute. And of course, I have my hydro peace lily. And this is the one that we're going to be propagating today. If you subscribe to me already, you would already know that I love a hydro houseplant. And this peace lily is the first plant I ever transferred from a potting mix to water, and that was over 3 years ago now. So this peace lily has been living in hydro full-time for over 3 years now, and she's pretty big and happy. It is currently winter in Australia, so she isn't flowering at the moment, but come spring she should push out a few blooms. We may not have any flowers at the moment, but we do have lots of babies. So let's pull them off. I'm not repotting today, but it's very likely that I will get water everywhere, as this is a hydro plant. And I just got a gorgeous new standing desk, which is made of oak, and I don't want to get water all over it. So just put down a potting mat to protect it. So now that it is out of the water, you can really see these little baby plants that have grown at the base here. You've probably already guessed that we propagate the peace lily via division, not via cuttings. Similar to how you can propagate a Pilea from a pup, or a snake plant also by taking a pup off. So we should just be able to pull these tiny little plants away from the roots. And then you can either put them into a potting mix, or you can put them into their own little hydro vessels, which is of course what I'm going to do. So I'm going to gently pull these off and try to make sure that you can see the process. As you can see, these peace lily pups are quite far down. So if this was in a potting mix, you would have to uproot the plant or dig quite far down to find these. So it is much easier when the plant is hydro. One, two. I have taken off 3 little pups so far. When it is in hydro, you really can see how I could just snap apart this whole plant. Another lot of babies here. Although it's getting quite addictive. Probably shouldn't pull them all off. So I think 3 is probably enough. I actually have 4 because I pulled off another one before I started filming, and then thought this may be interesting to some people. So I stopped and set up the camera. Before you get worried about the roots and possible algae, I know the roots are green, but there is no algae on them. You can see nothing is coming off on my hand. It's not a trick of the light. It's not AI. And if one more person claims that one of my videos is AI, I'm going to crash out. But it is not green because of algae or any other growth. It is in fact just chlorophyll, which is the same thing which makes the leaves green. The reason these roots are green is because light is getting to them, obviously, because they are in hydro. So the sun is hitting the roots, and that has slowly turned them green over time. Some are quite long now. As well as my hands not being affected by the lack of algae. You can also see that the water is not green. I will change the water now as well, because I haven't changed it for a few months. Hydro plants are very easy to take care of, especially compared to potted up plants. Hydro plants are great because they are so low care. All you need to really do is make sure that they have enough fresh water. So I don't change the water all that often, but I do top it up often, as when you add fresh water, you are adding fresh oxygen, which is what the plant needs to grow. So as long as you are topping up the water, then it will be fine. I also add a plant food once a month, so I will do that when I change the water. But that's it really. It is much easier than a potted plant, which needs watering more often, feeding more often, needs to be repotted, it can get pests. And especially if you are someone who travels a lot, hydro plants are great because you can leave them for months at a time and they will be absolutely fine. So I have my trusty IKEA bowl and I'm just going to pour the old water into the bowl. So I've got all this water, there's nothing funky in it. There is a few older roots which have fallen off, but there's no bugs, there's no algae, there's no mosquito larvae. I am quite lucky to live somewhere that doesn't really have mosquitoes. Obviously, if you live somewhere that has lots of mosquitoes or dengue fever or anything like that, maybe skip the hydro plant. So we're going to put my mama plant back in. I have left a few pops on for now. I'm not going to trim the roots because she doesn't need it, and when you do trim the roots you risk them rotting because you've made a little wound. So I will just put this back in and add fresh water. Years later, where's my plant? I'll add my Peace Lily back in and then add more water if needed. And I do need more. So my plant is a bit wet now because I just quickly washed it under the tap because it was a bit dusty and this was a good opportunity to do that. But I am going to add some more water. That's enough. So when adding water or when transferring a potted plant into hydro, you want to make sure that the crown of the plant, which is where the stems meet the roots, is above water. Otherwise your plant may rot, for this variety anyway. I am also going to add a little bit of plant food as mentioned before. I'm using this aroid plant food because the Spathiphyllum is an aroid, even though it doesn't really look like one. I'm gonna add 2 pipettes. And that is her done for another few months. Now let's put these little babies into hydro as well. It's so bloody cute. I just realized that some of these pups I pulled off are already producing their own little teeny tiny babies. So cute. So I have my 4 little propagations. So tiny and cute. I could put these all together or separate them out. See how we go. I have a few different vessels. Just an old jar and also a few little amber varieties. If the green roots do bother you, or the thought of algae growth, which of course can happen as well, then if you use amber glass instead, it really helps to slow or stop completely the algae growth. That is because the UV rays can't get through the coloured glass as well and the water stays cooler. Rooting may also be slower when using amber glass, but obviously these have already rooted, so it's not an issue here. And I think amber and green looks lovely together. That does look cute with the amber, but then you won't be able to see the little babies on this one. So I may use the clear, at least for this one. Push in at the roots because we want those submerged. I am just going to add a tiny drop of plant food as well. Not that much. With this one you use about a pipette per litre. This is obviously only about 100 mils. And that's it, a super cute little water propagation of my Peace Lily, the Spathiphyllum. Of course I could have potted this up into a potting mix, and you can use an aroid mix because the Spathiphyllum is in the same aroid family. But as you can see, these roots are quite fine, and the peace lily does like to be in a wetter environment than say a monstera, so you can use a finer indoor potting mix as well, or hydro. So my mama peace lily has had a water refresh and some plant food, and I took off 4 of her babies. As I said, this one does bloom a few times a year. My variegated peace lily has not given me any flowers yet, and I do want to see if they're variegated as well, so if she doesn't look like she's going to bloom in spring, I may move her to hydro as well, because as you probably know if you have one, peace lilies are quite dramatic. They're sold as an easy plant, but if you forget to water them even one day, they will go limp on you. This one probably needs a dust as well. Still cute though. You can also see this one doesn't really have any babies, and if it did, they would be much harder to pull out and much messier. So really there's no downside for hydro peace lilies. This peace lily is in a terrarium which I repurposed. I have a few other hydro plants which are in vases. My hydro fiddly fig is in an amber jar I thrifted, so definitely head to the thrift store and look in the glass section. You'll find some beautiful vessels, bottles, jars that you can repurpose for propagation and hydro plants. For general care for the peace lily, I do find it to be a lower light houseplant and a true low light houseplant. I think plants are often sold as low light when they're not, but this one does thrive in a darker spot, and it does not need direct sunlight throughout the day like this one is getting right now. It doesn't usually sit here. This one lives in my bathroom full time, which does have a skylight, but there is no direct sunlight. And this one lives in my kitchen living area where there is some light hitting the roots, but not a lot of direct sunlight through the day. So they don't need a lot of light, they do need a lot of water. I feed it monthly in spring and summer with an aroid plant food, and then less in the cooler months. The peace lily is very easy to propagate once it's produced pups, just like the Pilea. So that's it. Let me know if you knew this is how you propagate the peace lily, and if you've got any other questions. That's another question I always get. What do I do with the water? This water I will pour on my outdoor garden. You can just pour it down the drain, but as someone who grew up in a drought, I try to save water and reuse it whenever possible. So that one I'll just pour outside. And for the water I use, again, if you follow me, you would have heard me say this a million times, but I'm lucky to live somewhere with great tap water, and the pH is suitable for most houseplants. So I mainly use tap water, or I use rainwater, which I collect just in these bowls. So I always have a bunch of these bowls, because yes, I have multiple. I always have a bunch of these bowls out on my balcony collecting the rainwater. So no fancy setup here, just some bowls. You can use buckets, whatever you've got on hand. So if your tap water isn't great for plants, then go for rainwater. If that's not possible, then use whatever you usually do. You can have them in hydro or semi-hydro, or in a potting mix. I recommend an aroid potting mix or an indoor potting mix, or you can combine the two. It should bloom a few times a year, and sometimes the pollen will burn the leaves if it drops onto them, so be wary of that. If the pollen is dropping all over the leaves, I would wash it off quite quickly, or you'll get some little burn marks. But I think that's it for my peace lily propagation, hydroplant care, and general care. So thanks for watching, and I hope this inspires you to 1. Propagate your peace lily, and 2. Give hydroplants a go. Okay, bye.